All right, everyone. Hydrogen Hillary just can't shut up. She can't stay away from every issue because I think she wants to pretend that she was actually elected. So she weighs in on every political happening that occurs within the country, and always from her weird slant. So it was no surprise in the wake of the Las Vegas shooting when she came out, and immediately it was, her first statement was, "Oh, let us grieve. Let us not be political here. Let's not politicize this issue. But let me proceed to politicize it. Oh, people were running away because they heard gunfire. Imagine if there had been a silencer involved. The Republicans, those evil, dirty GOPers, they want to, allow people to own suppressors. You already can own them in most states. You do realize that, correct? I think we repealed our suppressor ban here. By the way, that's not how a suppressor works. If you're firing at the rate that Paddock was apparently firing at, that suppressor's going to stop working real fast. So that wouldn't have really helped him. Also, let's look at mass shootings throughout time, including in states where suppressors are legal. Are they often used or no? The answer is, of course, they're not. Because why would you care? If your goal is to shoot a bunch of people for some psychotic reason, it's a terrorist attack, it's, trying to wipe out some other gang or something, do you really care if you die? No, Paddock killed himself. He doesn't care if he evades notice for a few extra seconds because he fires his suppressor until one of the bullets goes sideways through it and a chunk of metal crashes into his skull and kills him anyway. He wouldn't have cared. If a person is that suicidal, because you'd have to be to do such a thing, you know that at the very least you're going to prison for life or you're dying. Those are your two options in such a situation. He chose to die, of course. Probably escaping notice is not your goal. In fact, probably the goal more often than not is to be noticed in the act, to be known for some reason for doing it, I still think. I don't even know at this moment whether we know his motive. I know ISIS claimed responsibility, but it looks like that claim was full of shit. They've done this before. Sometimes they claim responsibility for things that they have nothing to do with, and they do that for attention too, because they want to ride the news cycle and maybe gain recruits or something. Oh yeah, we slaughtered a bunch of evil Americans. Haha, come join us, ISIS strong. And then of course some people will be like, okay, that's the last straw. They're the strong guys. I'm gonna go join them. And then hours later, when it turns out that the claim is totally false, it's like, well, screw me. I'm already halfway to Baghdad or something. But Hillary Clinton's statements made no sense. Let's not politicize it, but let's immediately politicize it. Let's not get political here, but the GOP wants this to happen more often. That's not a political statement. By the way, the Hearing Protection Act, the idea of legalizing suppressors, a suppressor is not itself a deadly weapon. You could club somebody in the head with it, I guess. But it's not going to work for this kind of thing. More often, what it's going to be put on is a hunting rifle while someone is hunting so that they don't get hearing damage over time. By the way, there's no such thing as a silencer. It's a suppressor. It reduces the sound. You're still going to be hearing it. It's just not going to cause significant hearing problems in the person who happens to be wielding the firearm. But this dude had a whole shit ton of firearms anyway. Didn't he have, like, what was it? I think they found him at 10 guns in his room or 40 guns or some insane total. He was armed to the teeth. And he was crazy, or maybe terroristic in some way. I think that if you're attacking a country music festival, probably you're not severe right-wing, as far as if you have a political motive. But Hydrogen Hillary coming out while the blood is still, wet on the pavement, the bodies are still warm, immediately says we must grieve this horrible day, but let's not politicize it, but I'm going to, proceed to politicize it. And that's what everyone else does at the same time. It always boils down to some permutation of insert religion or race here is problematic, or gun control. That's what is always invariably done. But having suppressors outlawed would not have stopped this attack. A suppressor was not used. It doesn't reduce a person's access to a weapon that he may have gotten illegally to begin with. It looks like, at last reporting last night, I think the weapons that were legally purchased were actually not used. And it was some other weapon that was probably unlawful for him to have anyway that was actually being used to fire on this crowd of people at the festival, at the concert there. Meanwhile, Tom Petty, he got so pissed off he had a massive coronary and died, so that didn't exactly make it a great day. It seems like this has been a really bleak, like, last 30 days or something. It's been a really dark time, and not only in the United States, but for many people within it. Rather sad. I would cover Tom Petty dying, but I'd rather just sing Tom Petty's songs all day, honestly. Funnily enough, I think he probably would have died happy if he were aware at the time to know that he knocked Hydrogen Hillary's crazy-ass comments and everything else off trending worldwide. Especially since they prematurely said, oh yeah, he's dead. And then they came out and said, no, he's not dead, he's on life support. Maybe brain dead, but he's technically alive. So for almost 24 hours there, nobody knew whether Tom Petty had passed or not. He finally did, unfortunately. I wonder what his reaction would have been if he could see all the shit that was going on, because of course he was unconscious at the time and not breathing. Probably would have been pissed. He probably would have said, no, I'm not going to back down, and done something about it. He probably would have had something to say, not to insert him into such a situation, I guess. But Hillary Clinton sure did. She decided it was the perfect time to weigh in and get some more people who are, you know, rabid anti-gun activists on board to ramble about how somehow, some way it would have been more terrible if a suppressor had been deployed. No, it wouldn't have been. I think people probably would have started fleeing the second that blood was exploding around them. I don't think that they would have waited to know that they were being fired at, and they probably would have known anyway because they would have heard it. They clearly would have, from that distance. You know, just because there's a suppressor involved doesn't mean the gun magically becomes silent. Personally, I think when politicians use misleading words that are clearly wrong, like assault rifle or silencer in this debate, we should immediately ignore anything that they have to say because it just shows that they're ignorant. And meanwhile, I see the same tired argument. I pointed this out on Twitter. I thought this was funny. Only the military and police should have guns. And this is coming from people on the left. Okay, you mean the military that we pay and train to go kill people overseas? Well, that's not much of a moral argument. People are still dying. No, I think what you mean is that American lives are worth more, which is pretty funny because you're always saying that they're actually worth less and that people from other places in the world, they're worth more than we are, culturally and physically speaking. That seems to be the common line from the far left anyway. Not sure about maybe the business Democrats or something from that angle. Only the police should have guns. Oh, you mean the police that you constantly call racist and barbaric? Okay, that makes total sense to me. Yeah, you know, screw the fellow citizens. Oh, they shouldn't be able to defend themselves because the Second Amendment has something to do with a standing army that didn't exist at the time. These people are nuts. Sorry, but gun control would not have stopped this. It never will stop terrorist attacks. Timmy McVeigh killed a bunch of people with fertilizer. Fertilizer and some knowledge of chemistry. He didn't need any firearms to do what he did. What's to prevent that from happening? Are you going to say, oh, well, you need a license in order to buy ammonium nitrate or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you want a society in which everything is perfectly safe, and it's never going to happen. As we see around the world today, even in societies where they have bigger government, and they have, like, all the sacred cows of the left here, they have gun control or outright disarmament, to the point at which you need a license practically to buy a butter knife in some of these countries. They have the single payer. They have the ever-present police state that conducts a constant surveillance. They don't have a Second Amendment. Hell, they don't have a First Amendment. They have, like, censored speech only in a lot of parts of the developed world that they keep pointing to, like Europe. Does this stop all of the attacks from happening there? No. No, they still happen. And by the way, it's very, very funny to me in closing here, whenever guns are mentioned by people on the left. They always want to say, oh, the U.S. has the most gun crime of anywhere in the developed world, thus ignoring a bunch of those same Latin American states that they want to open the border to. You know, okay, that's fine. That's not going to be good for your gun crime levels, I would assume. And then we have these groups saying, oh, all guns should be banned. We should just get rid of them all. Okay, you and whose army? How exactly are you planning to get that accomplished? Do you think that the military is going to back you up on that one? I don't think so. I think I would deeply question whether the U.S. military would actually want to be involved in such a thing. First, because of mass casualties that they'd sustain. Secondly, because of the logistics involved being not on their side. You know, you need fuel in order to power a tank or a drone or something. Everyone always talks about the military would just roll in and you would never be able to fight back because your pea shooter can't hurt a drone or a tank. Yeah, but it can potentially allow you to destroy a fuel depot that's required to keep those tanks and drones actually operative. The military knows this full well. The Japanese didn't want to invade the United States. That was back in World War II times when there were far fewer people and far fewer guns on this part of the continent. They decided against it because they figured that they would lose. And their military wasn't that bad. It was actually pretty good, especially in a naval and aeronautics sense. But we don't want to talk about that. No, guns are evil because people died. People die all around the world. In China, where you can't own a firearm, people use knives. In certain parts where explosives are deployed, people make crude chemical weapons sometimes. You remember, I think it was the Madrid train bombings or whatever it was, and some chemical agent was deployed at some point on the subway there? It's terrible. There will always be violent people. The answer is more guns in the hands of those that are not given over to violence. And they always say, well, yeah, but there must have been like law-abiding gun owners in the crowd in Las Vegas and that didn't stop him. Yeah, you're going to get terroristic style attacks. Whether this was politically or religiously or whatever motivated, maybe not. But it still certainly arises to the same number of casualties, certainly. Now, this is worse than the Pulse shooting, Aurora, or anything else. This is, I believe now, by deaths and injuries, the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. But saying, oh, we oppose a suppressor ban, how the fuck is that going to help the situation? Oh, we need to stop people from owning weapons that may have been illegal to begin with. Oh, that'll help. No, it won't. Yeah, it won't help anything. And Hydrogen Hillary's fooling her fans and herself. Either she doesn't know what she's talking about or she knows full well and it's just pandering. My bet is on the latter. She may be kind of crazy. She may be demented at this point, but she's not dumb. Not dumb in that sense. No, she knows what she's talking about. That's about all. Peace out.